We now come to the debate on the UK's progress toward net zero carbon emissions. Layla Moran to move.
Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm incredibly grateful to the Backbench Business Committee for allocating time to this debate in the House today, and I'd like to thank my co-sponsor, the Honourable Member for Brighton Pavilion, and also all the MPs, including the Honourable Member for Cardiff North and all others who contributed to that application. There were MPs from every single political party across this House, and I hope very much that this will be the spirit in which we take this today. But I mainly want to thank the young people, particularly the 2,000 young people in Oxford who decided that this was such an urgent point that they wanted to take time off school to have a protest in Bonn Square, the centre of Oxford, to force us into action. And may I say, if it wasn't for that protest, I wouldn't have put in the application, and I think this is them and their voice is being heard in this place, and it's about time too. I will, of course.
And she's making an incredibly important point, and I completely support the action of those young people. There were many from across Wales who did the same, and it was really disappointing actually to see the attitude of some government ministers who were dismissing the actions of these young people. Not the Honourable Lady opposite, I completely accept that, but others who were sort of dismissing it as somehow some sort of irresponsible behaviour. No, it's responsible behaviour because they actually care about our future.
That point, and as a former teacher, I dare say the reason why I'm here is because I want to stop them from having to do this again, because we are coming up to exams, and it would be much better if they did stay in school. But it's incumbent on us to make sure that action is taken. I'll make a little.
Before she moves on to the next one, could I agree enthusiastically with her about the energy and enthusiasm we saw from young people on that Friday? I have grandchildren in Cambridge that did it, but the schools in my constituency did it, and the energy and enthusiasm was remarkable, and this is what we need if we're going to save this fragile planet.
Couldn't agree more. Climate change, as they were saying to us, is the biggest issue facing our planet. Extreme weather hit every populated continent in 2018, killing, injuring and displacing millions, causing major economic damage. I will.
I'm really grateful to my honourable friend for giving me, and I congratulate her for securing this debate. But doesn't it show how dysfunctional our politics has become? This is the first debate on climate change for 2 years. We're dysfunctional in the face of the biggest political challenge of our times. We're obsessed with Brexit. This is what we should be spending our time discussing.
I thank him for his intervention. Indeed, it's not since September 2016 was the last time that we had a debate on this in this room, and I think that's shameful, frankly. 2018 was the 4th hottest year on record, with average global temperatures nearly 1 degree above pre-industrial average. And just yesterday was West Yorkshire. We saw enormous fires on Saddleworth Moor. The lovely weather was lovely, was it not? But do we not remember a year ago the beast from the east? These extreme weather events are not to be welcomed. They are not good things. They are a sign that something has gone horrifically wrong. I will, of course.
Pick for giving way, and she makes excellent argument. Does she agree with me that there is no more time left for delay? The government needs to urgently show that they are serious about tackling climate change and enshrine in law net zero before 2050 target. It was a clear strategy that we can all get behind.
For intervention, and indeed she has hit the nail on the head. We need to be moving faster and deeper, and this is indeed a climate emergency, and for this place to be not taking as much interest in it as we have needs to change.
Before she moves on.
May I just make a little progress, if I may? So today's debate could therefore not be more urgent. Leading climate scientists at the IPCC have warned that unless we take urgent action, we have just 12 years before global warming rises above the maximum limit of 1.5%, after which the risk of droughts, floods and extreme heat increases significantly. And just last week, the Independent Committee on Climate Change warned that the UK will struggle to meet its own not ambitious enough, frankly, binding targets on climate change, unless the government acts to greatly reduce emissions from buildings. And the UK's most populated polluting sector, transport, saw no reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in 2017.
I'm extremely grateful. And had she been here for the Welsh debate, we were discussing these very issues today and how it affects Wales. But as a member of the Base Select Committee, we heard evidence on energy efficiency, which stated that the resources
quotas put in by the Scottish Government was 4 times higher than the UK Government, twice as high in Wales and 1.5 times in Northern Ireland. So it's this Parliament and this Government's got its eye off the ball.
You're right. And time after time, report after report, evidence after evidence shows that the UK is just not doing enough to drive down emissions. I will give way.
I'm very grateful and I'm delighted that my honourable friend has secured this debate. She made the point that emissions haven't fallen. In fact, most recently have increased. And would she agree that the target of ending carbon vehicles by 2040 is simply not ambitious enough?
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. He's absolutely right. You know, the theme of my speech today is we are not doing enough.
On that point, I will. I'm grateful for giving way and congratulate her for securing this really important debate. And I just wonder if she welcomes, as I do, the initiative of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the United States, who has got real momentum behind the idea of real investment in climate infrastructure through a Green New Deal. Does she agree that we need that kind of approach urgently in this country too?
Yeah.
I thank her for her intervention. Who doesn't love AOC? I think she's fantastic. But the fact is, the Green New Deal was something that we started to do when my honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Kingston and Surbiton, was as Climate Change Secretary of State, and that's now been removed from the Cabinet table. So as an example of how this government doesn't take this seriously enough, there is now not a singular member around that Cabinet table whose sole purpose is to talk about climate change. It's not good enough. So my first question to the Minister is, are we planning to have a net zero emissions target for the UK? And if we are, when will it be? Because I understand the current is 80% by 2050, and that, frankly, is not good enough. And further to that, I will give way.
Does she have any regrets that in government the Liberal Democrats oversaw the scrapping of the Department for Energy and Climate Change and effectively changed... Well, I thought they did, but perhaps I'm wrong. There was the machinery of government change. I'm happy to be corrected if that's not the case. But we also saw the end of the Green New Deal. It was subsumed into base. We saw the end of the Green New Deal and the end of the energy efficiency standards in homes, which is basically meaning that we have a carbon lag, which is going to be more difficult to...
Order. First, there's too much noise. Secondly, I appreciate that the Honourable Lady is being generous in taking interventions, but she's being generous with the time later in the debate when many people want to speak, and those who are intervening may not be those who will sit here all day for the whole debate. So I would simply encourage her perhaps to make some progress. Layla Moran.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'll perhaps ask for that intervention, maybe if they waited for the speech that will be to come. None of those things seem to be true, so perhaps we can make sure that those are corrected later on. I will give way to my honourable friend.
I'm very grateful for my honourable friend giving way and congratulate on this debate. Can I just tell her that the intervention she had was wrong on every single account? It was the Conservatives who got rid of the Department of Energy and Climate Change. It was the Conservatives who got rid of the zero carbon homes allowance. It was the Conservatives who got rid of the Green Deal. The Conservatives who got rid of the CCS experiments. And I could go on. Liberal Democrats have a very proud record. And under us, we were seeing carbon emissions and the policies right falling dramatically.
So where do we go from here is the question. And the COP24 summit in... I can't pronounce this properly. Katowice, with countries settling on most elements of the rulebook for implementing the 2015 Paris Agreement, didn't actually go far enough. And I've been contacted by NGOs like Climate Coalition, Green Alliance, the UK Sustainable Investment and Finance Association, who were disappointed by the lack of forceful language and ambitious pledges to come out of COP24. Not enough was agreed. But I'm very delighted to hear that we, in this place, are now bidding for the next round. And my next question to the Minister is, what are we actually doing about that? Why have we, at this point, done it? What's the progress? It's a good thing, but what's going on? Let's make sure that it happens, and what can we do to make sure we're leading from the front? Excuse me, I've lost my place. The lack of action by parliaments, in a moment, I'm going to heed the words of the Deputy Speaker. The lack of action by parliaments and governments has prompted young people from across the world to strike, and we will know of 16-year-old Swedish activist Greta Thunberg, who'd had a solo protest outside the Swedish Parliament, who started this movement. This idea has spread rapidly, and across the world, 70,000 school children each week across the world in 270 towns wholeheartedly support what we're trying to do here, but are asking us to go much, much further. I'll take one final intervention and then I'm going to plough on.
I thank the Honourable Lady for giving way, and I congratulate her on securing this debate here this afternoon. Does she welcome the fact that the PwC report that states that actually the United Kingdom has decarbonised the fastest of any G20 country? And in fact, we've decreased emissions by 29% in the last decade alone. So good, successful British story so far, but a lot more to do.
I thank you for your intervention. I would point out that a lot of those policies were declining because of Liberal Democrat policies that we forced into government when we were in coalition. But here we are. And our aim must be that we shouldn't have these students strike again. And I will make an element of party politics about this because it's important to remember the greenest government ever, all but forgotten. And in fact, as my right honourable friend has been rightly saying, there has been so much that has been cut under this government. The Conservatives alone have not been forcing this through in the way that they should. Carbon targets, what happened to them? Renewable energy, what happened to that? We just haven't had the element of progress that we should have at this point. The government's effectively banned onshore wind, the cheapest form of renewable energy, all while pursuing an ideological obsession with fracking, overriding the views of local communities who've rejected it. These policies make crystal clear this government isn't serious enough about cutting emissions. We must demand better for our environment and our planet. And we must take... I'm sorry, I'm going to make progress. We must take inspiration actually from our communities, and where local party politics there does seem to be coming together on this. The Liberal Democrats on the Vale of White Horse, for example, put forward a motion that was almost unanimously passed. Same in Oxford, unanimously passed a Green amendment declaring a climate emergency. The same is happening in towns and cities across the country. But what Liberal Democrats want to see, I'm going to continue for a while, the Liberal Democrats want to see a carbon-neutral Britain by 2050. And to do that, we would bring forward a Zero Carbon Act, including measures to fast-track the switch away from fossil fuels and into clean energy and green tech. We would introduce a Green Transport Act, bringing forward the planned ban on new diesel and petrol cars by 2025 and 2030 respectively, and to help fast-track the uptake of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And then there's the Zero Carbons Home Standard, which was recklessly scrapped by the Conservatives. And I welcome the bill laid by my honourable friend, the member for Orkney and Shetland, who set targets for the reduction of plastic pollution. But all in all, what we need is a new type of economy, an economy that is sustainable, that embeds the issues of the day into its heart. We must look at implementing radical financial changes, such as moving to a circular economy, as advocated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and using a carbon tax and dividend to use market forces to reduce emissions quickly. We should implement rewards for companies who demonstrate green investment. And for pension funds, they should be rewarded for taking pains to divest. We should be rewarding companies who take this to their heart, and at the moment I don't see the radical change that is needed yet. I will give way.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to the Honourable Lady, and she need not fear my intervention. She may find it helpful to her argument, and it's a pleasure as a member of the Backbench Business Committee to hear her application and happily grant this debate this afternoon. I entirely agree with what she said on fracking. I will oppose any liberalisation of the planning law on fracking. The government is misguided in its policy, and should listen to its own backbenchers who have been making this point time after time.
I thank him for his intervention. I was simply trying to make progress. I wasn't afraid of it. But it's also clear that Brexit poses a risk to our environmental standards, as outlined by the honourable member for Brighton's amendment in yesterday's Brexit motion. And so I ask the Minister, can she confirm today whether the UK will continue to participate in the European emissions trading scheme after Brexit? I know that these are the questions that are coming in thick and fast into my inbox, and many are extremely worried about what's going to happen to environmental standards should we go through with the Tory Brexit as proposed. I know that there is great appetite across this House for change, but the message that came to us from the young people who struck the other day is that we need to now take this as an emergency. We cannot wait. We cannot wait another 2 years for this to be debated in this place. And my solemn promise to them today is this. I and the Liberal Democrats have heard you, and we promise to act. And I'd like to thank all members from all political parties, and I hope that you will make the same pledge to them on behalf of your parties. Only by finding a way forward, only by finding a way forward together that is ambitious, that listens to the fears and the needs of young people, will we find a way to safeguard our precious planet. And after all, there is no planet B.
The question is that this House has considered the UK's progress towards net zero carbon emissions. Mr. Richard Benyon.